Hey guys, how's it going? Matt from Foul Ball Productions here. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you're doing well because I'm doing phenomenally. Thank you very much. This is the 83rd episode of the MFR podcast. I wonder what episode I'd be on if I actually did every week from when I launched this podcast. Maybe like episode 300. Probably not that high, but pretty high. I've definitely missed some weeks in there, but I'm trying to be more consistent. I'm here today. Lots of fun stuff to talk about. Lots of big old stories with a lot of legs. But, we'll get to the top stories today in just a little while. Hope you guys are doing well. I had a nice weekend. I tripped balls on mushrooms. So that was something. Kind of needed it. Needed like it's like a mental squeegee if you've ever done them. It's just sort of like kind of reclarifies your mind and like who you are. Very spiritual, too, I feel. I watched this guy, Right Wing Coalition. He's got a good YouTube channel. He's new, up-and-comer, puts out good stuff. Very well thought out, very articulate video essays. I like him. I invited him on the podcast. He turned me down. But he said he's not doing any podcasts, so I won't take it too personally. I remember, he was saying he had this whole thing about it wasn't anti-capitalism, but it was just kind of a criticism or just a discussion about online gambling and sort of the vice industry and such like that. And then he included ED pills and mushrooms in that. And I was like, are those vices, like sexually satisfying your woman? I don't know. Maybe you're just so based. That's a vice. But for me, I don't feel that is. And mushrooms, I just don't find to be any kind of, I guess you could abuse them if you wanted, but I don't know. The people that I've experienced, and when I do mushroom, I just feel like it's more like it's spiritual. It's sort of enlightening. Like, yes, I've done them in party atmospheres, but I don't know. I just didn't really get it. I didn't really know where he was going with that. I thought it was a little too like puritanical, where you're like, all right, I get it. You're conservative and Christian and all that. That's fantastic. But look, come on, what are we doing here? Hello, Cotton Ministries. Good to see you, my friend. Sam Tripoli is doom scrolling right now. You better hurry up. Well, I'm here. I'm sorry. I had a little bit of an issue. My friggin' cat, she locked herself in my office. This is my office that we're in right now, my studio. Last night, she climbs these panels, these soundproof panels. She climbed them, and there's a door here with panels on it as well, and she managed to close the door and then locked herself in here while I was sleeping and destroyed a lot. See that light that's normally on? Well, she chewed through the cord on that. She fucked up the carpet over here, and she destroyed my old headphones. Shit. So I was a little behind getting everything set up today, but here I am, ready to broadcast to you. Don't go watch Sam Tripoli. I mean, Sam Tripoli seems like a good guy, but I'm here now. What's up, such a dildo? Good to see you. What's cracking? Hope you're doing well on this Tuesday evening. I'm doing phenomenally. Thank you very much. Peepers. Hello, Peepers. Hello, Cindy's little titty cat. How you doing? Titty cat. Come here, little titty cat. Who's a little titty cat? Yes. Now, I hope you guys are having a great day. Fantastic friggin' day. It's been a big news few weeks, I'd say, with obviously Charlie Kirk thing, but just a lot of stuff that's just been going on many weeks. I mean, you know how politics and the culture gets kind of devolves into infighting when there's not too much going on. It's sort of like carnivorous animals, if you don't feed them enough, they just start eating each other. And I feel like that had been going on for kind of a few weeks. We had some big stories here and there, but I don't want to say slow news days, but just kind of news that was sort of I just didn't really feel like talking about it. Not the case of late. Big stories today. Where do I want to start? I mean, lots to talk about here. I'll just start with this. I I have another channel. I have another YouTube channel. It's called Foulball Film and Television, and I'm doing some interesting stuff over there. I feel my first video over there was about The Expanse, my favorite show ever, and I'm slowly turning out content there. I try to make those videos like written, like very meticulous scripts with lots of research. But my most recent video is a review of the first 2 episodes of Alien Earth, almost at 2,000 views. So if you want to check it out, be a part of the rising tide that is Foulball Film and Television. But because of that, I've been watching more movies. I watched Sinners, which I'm working on a comprehensive review on because it's fascinating and it's sort of absurdity and how the fact in the first like hour is like spectacular and then the next hour is like retarded with this sort of like glaze of like meaning, social commentary, racism that just falls completely flat. But I mean, if you looked at YouTube and you looked at the internet, you'd think this was the greatest movie that's come out in the past 50 years. And I can assure you it isn't. But I also watched Weapons. I don't know if you guys saw that. It's another movie that came out this year, another horror. I guess like indie horror is really, or just smaller budget horror is having like a moment right now. But it was by one of the guys in the sketch comedy troupe, The Whitest Kids You Know, which Michael, who was on the show last week, big fan of. I didn't really know them. I was telling him I kind of confused them with Workaholics, and I feel like those guys are tool bags. So I never watched them, but I have seen some of their sketches, and they're really funny. So anyway, one of the guys died, and I don't know any of these people's names, so I apologize. I think his name was Trevor that died. And then the director of Weapons wrote Weapons basically while going through the trauma of like dealing with like a guy who was only like 41, like a good friend of his that died. I didn't mean to laugh during his friend dying, but there's just a great clip of them during COVID when he died on like a Zoom call, and everybody's like, oh, we want to know how'd he die. And he's like, okay, I guess it's time to just let you know. It's that, he died at home alone. And he did asphyxiate on his own cock. He was trying to suck his own cock, and he got there. He succeeded. It was so funny. It's such a funny way to talk about your recently deceased friend. He died trying to suck his own cock. I hope that when I go out, I'll have friends good enough to make jokes like that about me. But it was very, very funny. Sentient Dildo, Operation Clog the Toilet is news worth covering. Operation Clog. I think I know what you're talking about. I think I know. Is this the counterintelligence to Operation Pooper Clip? Is that what you're getting at there? I think I know what you're talking about with Operation Clog the Toilet. Don't worry, I've got clips. I've got clips from that, from what I think you're talking about. Yes. A honky vampire feeding on the blood of people of color would say that. Yeah, I guess I'm one of the Irish vampires from that movie. But anyway, so going back to The Whitest Kid You Know and Weapons, I watched Weapons. I really, really liked it. I thought it was good as hell. I guess some of the people who I was on panel with on Zach's show didn't really care for it. I thought it was great. And I thought it was super fun. I'm not a huge horror fan, so maybe that was the problem. Maybe they're expecting something different out of like the horror elements of it. For me, I just thought it was a really fun movie with a compelling mystery. Julia Garner's in it, and she is absolutely fantastic. You'd know her from the Ozarks or Ozark if you've ever seen that show. That was a good show for about a season, and then just like exhausting. But no, I thought it was great. I think if you guys happen to catch it on demand or whatever, worth your time. It was a really interesting, unique movie. I don't know if I'm going to do a video about it because I kind of feel like everything that needs to be said about it has been said. Like I kind of spent last night listening to a bunch of videos on it, and I was like, they covered it great. I just don't feel like I have anything to add other than it's good and I recommend it. Just coming from me. Parrothead, Matt watches Prawn for the plot. Lol. Listen, story structure. Funnily enough, there's actually a guy named Stephen Pressfield who wrote a couple of books called like The War of Art is probably the most notable one, but he wrote a whole series basically about the creative process. And I read them like when I was being an actor. And this guy is a very interesting guy because he's very resilient. wrote for years and years and years without ever getting anything published. And then he wrote The Legend of Bagger Vance, which eventually got adapted into a screenplay and has like a bunch of successful novels now. And he's like a really inspiring, just kind of guy, humble, no bullshit, no like fanciful nonsense, like all these kind of concepts and like Buddhism and stuff, which is like, you're entitled to the work, not the results of your work, stuff like that. Just good axioms to help you along your creative journey, which I could absorb every once in a while, because sometimes I put out videos and I'm like, man, I put so much work into that, 16 views. But I should be used to it by now. For some reason I'm not. Maybe that'll stop with what we learned today. But anyway, he said, I guess, like one of his early writing jobs, and one of the things he took with him was actually writing for porn. He said that, the guy, like, I guess it was a producer or his boss or something like that, was just like, yeah, but like he'd write the dialogue for the porn or whatever. But he's like, yeah, but like, how's it moving the story forward? Like, how's it functionally progressing the story? And it's just like, it's such an interesting thing to offer. You're like on this kind of writer's artist guru to like help you in your journey. And like, yeah, one of my most fundamental insights came from when I worked writing in porn. You're like, that is so fascinating and so interesting. Good books. If any of your, I think it applies to a lot of things. I think it applies to starting a business, to like working out. If you guys are curious at all, I would definitely recommend reading The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. Fantastic book. Cotton Ministries. I just saw the newest Superman movie. It was dumb. I do feel that upon reflection, yes, I liked it. The first time I saw it, I thought it was good. It kind of moved me. And then I saw that it was on HBO the other night, and I went to start to watch it. And I got like a few minutes in, and I was like, oh, who is, like, I was like bored already. And I was like, I guess I didn't like it. Like, if that's my response to watching this movie, I guess I don't care. I mean, it is a little disheartening when the first thing you see is Superman just get knocked out of the sky. It's like, that's the first thing you see is him getting his ass kicked. It's kind of like, it's that sort of a boring tone, not really something that, I don't know, the greatest superhero should be doing in the first few minutes of his movie. But anyway, just wanted to drop a little media conversation in there. Definitely recommend watching Weapons. Thought it was awesome. Okay, so got some interesting stories, and they all kind of connect here. Where do I want to start with it? I think I want to start with, let's start with the Google story, because that is huge. This is kind of been all over Twitter today, all over YouTube. If you're watching any live streams, people have been talking about it all day. It's a big story, man. It's something that I think, if a lot of, and we all lived through COVID. I mean, that's how a lot of people started doing YouTube, was having like free time on your hands when they locked down the country during COVID. And if you remember, there was a lot of people getting banned. Like, everyone had little code words for, you called a coof, if you remember, and just lots of, you wouldn't even mention the 2020 election, didn't even come up, even though we all wink, sort of had like our theories about it, because they were black bagging and disappearing people left and right. Channels were just getting taken out, never to be heard from again. And, without any kind of social media platform that with freedom, they just kind of disappeared. They were just sort of gone. They'd go to Parler or, Truth Social or Rumble. But, when it comes to the public conversation, just kind of gone, really. And it's something that we all knew, I don't know what I said, or I don't know what happened with my channel, but for a while there, every single live stream I would do, without fail, would be instantly demonetized. I mean, as I was doing it, demonetized. I'm like, I don't think your AI bots are that good. I don't think they can catch information that fast. We would, not just me, many would theorize that there were, shadow bans. I mean, shadow banning has been proven to be a thing in big tech, for whatever reasons. But it was definitely a thing where, suppression of reach was just the norm. And then people were just getting got. Channels were just left and right. Sargon of Akkad was a guy who got demonetized for years. I mean, just got remonetized like a month ago, 2 months ago, something like that. Like, didn't lose his influence, definitely still had a presence on the internet. I mean, I listen to Sargon daily. I mean, he's got his Akkad Daily channel. That guy works so hard. He puts out so many videos, and he's just good. He just speaks well. I don't even I kind of like envy that. I'm like, man, he can just talk about anything, and it sounds like written and prepared and organized, but it can't all be written down because you know, he does his podcast, The Lotus Eaters. He does stuff for his main channel. He does stuff for the Akkad Daily channel. I mean, just pumps out content, that guy. But he was, you know, demonetized on everything, all things, and even things like Patreon got rid of him. You know, I think you guys all, if you're hanging out on YouTube in any kind of I don't want to say controversial, but just sort of like any kind of space where creators are telling the truth, you will have noticed this. You will have clocked this and put this together because it was undeniable. It was everywhere. It was so common and a big story. And guess what? If you suspected that, if you thought that was happening, you were right. Today, Google, this is from Fox News, but this, like I said, there's stories everywhere. Google to reinstate banned YouTube accounts censored for political speech. Tech giant admits Biden administration pressed platform to remove COVID-19 content. And I think we all know it goes further than COVID-19. I imagine they can probably, they could probably chalk that one up. But, look, it was obviously widespread. I mean, conservatives, before Elon bought Twitter, right? Before Elon bought X, they're like, what was conservative media? The Daily Wire, like where did there'd be these kind of scattered channels, but it wasn't there wasn't like a core. There wasn't like enough people. Like we were all scattered and disparate. Like I think, that was one of the reasons that I got into YouTube to begin with, was when I first started listening to like Gary talking about how, shit, all this kind of modern slop content was, with all these girl bosses and feminist themes and race shit and like everything. And I was just, living in Hollywood, kind of feeling like I'm the only person who notices this. And then you see online that there's actually like a whole bunch of people, and oh, okay. So it's like, that was, one of the first things you start to connect and interweave. But it was still, I mean, they were playing whack-a-mole with anyone who got too prominent or flew too close to the sun. But that is just not the case anymore. I mean, I'm probably to a degree in my own echo chamber, but when you see, millions of people across the country and across the world mourning Charlie Kirk and praying for him, and that when his service at that stadium, they sold out a stadium, or I don't know if they're selling tickets, but it was packed and more people that couldn't get in, and you got that march in England, that Tommy Robinson march, and like 1 million, 2 million people show up to that. It's like, oh, you're definitely not alone at all. It's just that we were scattered to the wind, and people were not, you weren't allowed to talk. And if you did talk up too much about too many things, well, they had systems in place to get rid of you. And it looks like not only like they could deny it for the rest of time, and I'd still be like, they were censoring people. But they are admitting it. They are flat out admitting it. Consume goy slop or else. Indeed. Oh, unfortunately, it's all there is nowadays. Let's go, boys. Hello, William Richards. Let's go. Destiny got Sargon demonetized. Yes, that was right. It was Destiny. Yes, indeed, it was. That guy, queef of the year, huh? That guy's such a pussy. It's like, you hear the enraging things that he says, and it's not, I don't, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I'm not just saying this from a political, principled point of view. I do not want Destiny dead. I would love to beat his bitch ass. You know what I mean? Like, I'd like to smack him around. This isn't a threat. I'm not threatening Destiny. Okay. I'm sure that's still part of the terms of service. I'm not. I'm just expressing an opinion, just a feeling that I have. He's just such a little bitch, You just want to be like, shut up, Destiny. Right? Just like shove him in a locker. Gosh, eat shit, you little pussy. And he's even now, it's like he's saying like horrible things about Charlie and Erica Kirk. And it's like, you don't even mean that. You're just trying to get attention. You're like a toddler, I don't know, you just like throw your chocolate milk over just so that the attention's on you. Yeah, no one's even you can tell like people aren't even mad. They're really not. Like some people get mad, but there's not like a amount of outrage. Everyone's like, oh, give it a rest, Destiny, you little queef. William Richards, you call one fat guy with a beard. He and Mama Susan came in with the band hammer. Yeah, Mama Susan. That's right. It was Susan Wojcicki, and she was, yeah, man. It was crazy. It was kind of scary. There was that kind of like edge, looking over your shoulder when like, especially like in 2021, where the COVID stuff was just so, hot and like constant happening. You'd get like, new information, and you'd see these compilations of like, hell, the vaccine will stop the spread. We never said the vaccine would stop the spread, and just all this shit. And then like the election and just so much stuff for the past few years. It's been crazy. It's been absolutely nuts. Hello, Shield Wall of Dragon. What is up? Indeed. Yeah, no duh. Google, anyone with eyes could see that was happening. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Conservative media is also slop. Well, I mean, if you include all things, then everything is slop, right? Like if you say, okay, yes, that would be true about conservative media. That would be true about movies. But we also know there are good movies. You could say video games are slop. It's like, okay, that's true. But some of them are like excellent and truly interesting and worth your time. So I just don't feel like it's like all conservative media is not slop. Like there's, plenty of lame. You know what I think really exposed people? Like left loves to throw that term grifter around, but there is it applicable at times. But I think the Israel Palestine thing really exposed who, who like what your principles actually are. Like who was saying the stuff in the sense that like they really believe it, and who was saying the stuff that it's like there's a niche here that I can kind of exploit, where I can sort of grow popularity here. I mean, there is a thing to what Sunjan Dildo is saying here. And I think historically conservative media is generally just telling people what they want to hear. I think like that, that was kind of like, it was like the Sean Hannitys of the world, just kind of be telling you what you want to hear, but it's not necessarily like precise or, complex. It's just sort of like what, the way you want the world to be. And I'll just let you know that you're right for thinking that, it's kind of a bit of a jerk off, a circle jerk a little bit. But I think that they're like Sargon of Akkad, I think is a really precise laser, in the conversation. I think there's lots of people out there who have extremely worthy conversations. That guy, the right wing coalition guy, I think he does really good stuff. I just I know you're kind of like a nihilist with all this stuff, but for me, I just feel there are interesting conservative voices, and they're growing. And not everybody, but oh God, don't mention this to me. Liz, hello, good to see you. I need Matt's take on Fallout show doing New Vegas for season 2. So I got into an argument on Twitter about that terrible first season, and I like spent hours like researching, like the original. I still have like all this ammunition to write like this scathing review, and I want to. I'm probably going to save it for like, in like when the show actually, comes out. I'll probably launch, do the video before that, like right before that, to catch the kind of heat. But I am not happy about it. They already, ruined the lore. They're just, it's Bethesda's awful storytelling and the Todd Howard's weakness and insecurity. Instead of, what they should have done was they should have just adapted every game and turned it into a season of TV. They should have taken game 1 and turned that into a season, game 2 and turned that into a season, Fallout 3, New Vegas. If you have to do Fallout 4. But the thing is, Todd he's not good. They're not good at telling stories. They are, thin little sandbox simulators, but they're not good at compelling stories. Whereas the guys at Obsidian who did New Vegas are fantastic storytellers, or at least they were, some of the guys who were there. And there's so much to play with. But, the guys who designed Fallout, like, Tim Kaine, like are great storytellers and they progress their world. So like Fallout 1 versus Fallout 2, there's a lot of advancement. Like, right, the world ends, right? You finally come back to the surface of these vaults and it's bad. But then by the next game, it's like it's still bad, but it has moved. They've brought back mining. Now they have gold currency instead of like bottle caps. And then like Todd's such a retard. He goes, "Oh, no, the bottle caps are cool. They stay." It's like, so you just devolved the world because you don't understand it. And then New Vegas like has brilliant. New Vegas actually has like different currencies, like the NCR has got their own currency, and Caesar's Legion has their own currency, and then there's still bottle caps that kind of everybody takes. Like they have these complex concepts, but Todd is such a retard and such a weak man that he, no, we're just gonna kind of do the Bethesda slop kind of grand categorization of the Fallout show, destroy Shady Sands, one of the most pivotal and important locations in the game. In Fallout 1, it's just this little settlement that you kind of stumble across. It doesn't have too much of an impact, but then you meet this girl Tandy there. And in the next game, that little settlement has turned into like a big city, one of the biggest locations in the game, and has started a new government called the NCR. And the NCR has this big impact on New Vegas, because they progress the story. They take what the guys did before and move the ball. Whereas like Todd is just perpetually in this sort of bleak, dystopic, oh, everything's broken, everything's trash. It's like, well, eventually people would get, concrete back. Eventually, if you have some of this like echoes of technology, this knowledge, they're still running computers all over this world. That means you can get the information and you can build it again. I know, sorry for that rant, but it frustrates me so much that I just hate what he's done with my precious Fallout. So that's my take, and I'm really unhappy about it. Very unhappy about it. Well, William, this I guess about Destiny. Yeah, I'd like to smack him around in Minecraft. Indeed. I guess we'll get back to the. Sorry, that just took over for a second, man. Just those like speaking in tongues. I guess we'll get back to the story at hand, huh? You know what they were censoring? You got banned or worse for saying the word COVID. Yes, you could not question the official narrative or else. That's where the coof came from. People would say the coof. I heard Az today on Real BBC say coof. Like it's like he doesn't have to anymore, but you just get so trained into saying it. It's like when people say grape, right? Or unalive. It's like these things. It's like, you got your restricted mode. You know what I mean? You can protect the delicate little kids who can't hear the words rape and kill yourself. It's just like, it's so patronizing and juvenile. I really can't stand it. Destiny is a spiteful mutant. Yes, he's a spiteful mutant. Weak and in my opinion, an avid drug user, an avid either a coke or amphetamine, something like that. His jaw is always going. It's just an opinion. I have no proof. Please don't sue me. But that's just how I see it. Just the way his jaw, and he's like a motor mouth, and he thinks he's so clever. He's just a little puss. Hello, Zax. Good to see you, sir. Good to see you. Destiny is literally the hipster communist guy in freshman year of college who does it for attention, and everybody hates him by March. That's right. Now imagine you spent a decade in college with that guy, and he never develops his opinions or grows. Kudos to Shoe on Head, who's a YouTube creator that I really like and admire. You could see her evolution, her kind of cultural evolution as a person. She started off as kind of being like not a full-on socialist, but sort of like a heavy welfare state kind of socialist, like socialized medicine and, all these different kind of, social welfare and stuff like that. But, and she's always been pretty based, like, not to say that she wasn't based, but she has really evolved as a creator and as a person, and it's like, that's what you should do. You should grow and you should develop through their opinions, through your opinions. Like you learn new information and then you incorporate that into your worldview. It's like, I don't fault people for believing things. I fault people for not adjusting when new data is introduced. It's like Trump is not a fascist, right? He didn't start World War III. I was promised that back in 2016. It didn't happen, And so when's the mea culpa? When's the I guess I was wrong about that. Maybe I overreacted. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. Like, well, that's when I don't respect you. If you can't develop and grow with new information and developing point, well, all right, then I don't want to hear it. You are a boring person. Liz. Okay, it's okay. I just need your take for completeness since you are the New Vegas guy. Lol. Yeah, no, I think I will be having more conversations about that show. It's almost like it's too painful. because I've loved Fallout for so long, and it felt so personal because for years before Fallout 3, it was a very small game that only, a handful of people knew about relative to the scope of like gaming in the country. And to just see it just bastardized is just painful, absolutely painful. Speaking of truly terrible shows, release The Savant. Yes, I saw that today. They're not going to put out The Savant amid current climate and such. Yeah, I mean, that was just going to be a lol cow anyway. I mean, the meme alone was great. No bullying equals destiny. Gonna have to bully that little piece of piss. Shield Wall Dragons. I'm with you on that. I thought the Fallout show was not good. They turned the NCR into raiders. They had Vault Tech start the war for reasons. That's how you win the game of capitalism. And then you'll see these little like kind of soy weak little commies online. They didn't say that the show doesn't say that they did it for comedy. It's like, okay, but yes, they did, They explicitly say that that's why they started. It's like, well, you don't know for sure. It's like, I don't need to. The show wants me to think that. I'm not going to like try to find more depth here or leave open for interpretation. The show basically was like, yeah, his wife did it for her capitalism. Like, most retarded thing in the world. So goddamn stupid. I hadn't watched the first season, but I guess I'll pass on that. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it. It is so backwards and retarded. Central Grape and Alive is for advertising reasons, not the kiddies. Yeah, I know. But like, I don't know, like what what's it called? Law and Order SVU exists. Lots of rape on that show. Lots of advertisers too. You know what I mean? Like, I understand people want to but it's just like, it's this kind of overextension. Like, just let the market figure it out. Stop trying to control and put things in boxes. If people watch it, advertise with them. If they don't. Stupid. Shion Head is one more child away from starting to build the camps herself. Shoe rules. Okay, back to the story. Back to the story of the day. Google vowed on Tuesday to offer YouTube accounts that were permanently banned for political speech the ability to be reinstated, and the big tech giant admitted that it once faced pressure from the Biden administration to remove content about COVID-19. Yeah, I mean, one thing that I realized that I wasn't as aware, and I wasn't like as I just didn't think it was like this, was that I kind of felt like most of this stuff was a self-censoring choice. Like, I thought, the reason why Twitter was super gay and the reason why YouTube was going after stuff and just big tech in general, I thought it was really more, they just agreed. They're just like San Francisco liberals in their little tech bubble, and they just think that this is the right thing to do. And they did it. I mean, there's no way to know what people's intentions were, but I think, when you see the Twitter files, like Matt Taibbi's the Twitter files, and you see like this information come out, I think you kind of have to give them a little bit of credit that it wasn't necessarily their choice. I think, it's like it probably affects their revenue. It probably affects like their bottom line. It's like you probably want as many different people with as many different points of view on YouTube as you can possibly get, because that just means more revenue for you. All these platforms, like, they're designed so that people don't leave. And it's like, well, if you're alienating, like, how many millions of people with conservative views, it's probably not great for business. Not that I feel like, who knows? I don't think YouTube took a hit when they were censoring COVID, but I do think it's actually more the hand of the government than it was their own opinions, which, call me naive. It just looks like that. It just, Instagram, like Meta, like, Zuckerberg goes in front of the, he went to Rogan and went to the Senate and stuff, and basically was just like, listen, they came to me. It's like when the FBI comes to you and is like, you need to do this. It's like, yeah, that's the federal government. Like, I can sue them, I guess, but that is going to be a tough, expensive, and ultimately exposing lawsuit. And these guys are, autistic tech nerds. Like, they just, they just want to do their thing. They just want to, crush the competition and do what they're doing. But now that the culture shifted and there aren't these repercussions for, hate speech or whatever, it's like, Instagram and Meta just sort of they didn't even, there was no big policy change. I mean, Twitter is a completely different company. It's a completely different everything. It's a completely different experience on there. The voices on there. It's just a different platform than it was. And that was because Elon took it over. There's no dramatic shift over at Facebook. And even with Google, I don't think there was a dramatic shift, but I just noticed just being an avid user of YouTube, that what the content that I've been receiving has been a lot more based. Like there's this guy, the Zoomer historian, who says some stuff where you're like, wow, that would not have been cool on YouTube for a while. That guy, Right Wing Coalition. I found this other dude who basically just did like a whole 15-minute video shitting on Indian people. I think that one actually did get taken down. But I think it's just got mass flagged. They've changed, is my point. They've changed what you can say and what you can do on these platforms. And I think it's a lot to do with the administration is different, and they're not receiving pressure from the federal government to censor what, the federal government wants to get rid of. I mean, the Biden administration had a hit list of conservative influencers to get off of social media. That wasn't their invention. Twitter didn't come up with that themselves. That was like a directive from the government. I just feel like it's a lot more the government than I think any of us realize, which is ironic because like everyone would always say, oh, well, the First Amendment only protects you from the government. It doesn't protect you, from private companies making private company decisions. Like, actually, I guess not. I guess they will find ways to influence these private companies and make them make First Amendment, kind of infringements. Yeah, they won't lock you up and put you in jail, but they'll silence you, which is kind of the same thing, at least effectively when it comes to the political conversation. They'll just, no, you're just not allowed to talk anymore. You're not allowed to contribute. Hello, Nadia. Are you talking shit about me? Lovely, lovely, lovely. Top dogs didn't care. The middle management did. Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be, of course, the HR ladies and stuff like that, but I just can't imagine it would have all that much influence, if they're just like, yeah, we're not doing anything about that. That's too bad. You can take your cushy job or not. And you can see now, I mean, all these companies had gigantic overhauls? I don't think so. I can't imagine Google had a gigantic cultural overhaul or Meta did. I'm probably saying a lot of wokies still work there. They probably still, who knows? I'm sure they still, patrol it, but it's just not the same. It's just not the same. Hello. Matt sure does love to hear himself talk. Well, I'm the only one on the stream, Nadia. I'm the only one here. I think it'd be pretty awkward if I was just silent on a live stream, Nadia. Don't you feel that might be weird and maybe not all that entertaining? If I just sat here, just looked at the camera for an hour and a half, maybe I should talk. I think I should probably talk on the live stream with the microphone, Nadia. That's what we're doing here. That's this form of entertainment, okay? You maniac. Yeah, I hear a Zoomer historian video and I enjoyed it a lot. Yeah, he's pretty based. It's a lot of noticing in the comments, if you know what I mean, which I get a little like, oof, Jesus, boys, take it easy. Shield Wall of Dragons. Some could argue that they were being patriotic by doing what the government wanted, but of course the companies never framed it that way. So, that's not the case. Yeah, I mean, in a way. Look, and I think like early COVID, I actually watched, it came up in my feed. It was an old Dave Smith Part of the Problem episode with Scott Horton, right? These are two of the most like anti-COVID tyranny guys like in the conversation, right? Hardcore libertarians. And this episode came out like maybe the first week or 2 weeks of COVID. And even they were like, this is, we don't know what this is yet. They were being cautious and they were kind of, talking about the severity of this disease. And I guess, Scott had someone who worked in healthcare, so it's like even guys like that, right? We're like, this is kind of a big deal. So no one knew early on. No one knew. And so, yeah, but once the truth started coming out, like, once you went out to a restaurant one time and you could take off your mask while sitting, but you had to wear it while walking in and out or going to the bathroom. There's even places I heard that wanted you to put it on in between bites. Once you witness stuff like that, you're like, no, No, once you're closing down the parks, right, and the beaches, that's when you have to have integrity. That's when you have to have principles and be like, I don't care what they're saying or what patriotism is in this context. Like, fuck that. This is oppressive. Matt watching Zoomer Historian is hilarious. Why is that funny? Why is that funny? I watch a lot of stuff on YouTube. And I mean, he's a little long-winded. I don't always necessarily care about everything he talks about, but some of it I find is interesting. The Rhodesia videos are cool. You know, sometimes I think, even with history, even then I kind of get, like, I like history a lot. Sometimes I get bored with it. I just kind of, it starts to all get jumbled in my head. I'm like, oh, never mind. Zuckerberg did not get strong-armed by the FBI. The dude was gleeful in shutting down conservative tech people are slugs. They must be controlled through force. The right needs to know this. Interesting. He says otherwise. I wasn't there. I don't know. I mean, I think he said verbatim that the FBI was there telling him to shut this stuff down, but I'm not really sure. I can't say for sure. I don't work for Meta. Those Brad Johnson AI shorts prove stuff changed. I don't know who that is. I haven't seen one in a while, so maybe they got taken down, but they were not pulling any punches when they first came out. I don't know anything about that. Was that a George Droid? My buddy Mike would tell you, send me these George Droid shorts, like AI shorts that were like, they rebuilt George Floyd. That's like RoboCop. They're fucking priceless. They were so funny. Of course, my friend of me, I am. Well, yes. I'm fine. I am cool. I am totally copacetic. You want me to talk on my fucking live stream, you maniac? This is the guy who acted as a side table. Coffee table, not side table, a lamp, and a coffee table. All right? Please get your Matt lore correct. Jeez Louise, ladies. I haven't seen Luke in forever. Is he too cool to come on camera now? I know. Well, it's because of when I adjusted the setup, like the door is right here. So if I have the door open, it's blocking all this wonderful art. And it also just looks silly. So yeah, Luke hasn't been around. You're sub to George Droid. Let's go. Luke's around. He's doing well. He's doing good. I have 3 cats now, although I'm losing one. Mike's coming out in October to get his other cat. So I'll be down a cat, but that's okay. It's enough. I live in a fucking constant cloud of cat hair. I love cats, but yikes. And she just, the other one, my little one, destroyed this fucking studio. Tore up the carpet. Anyway, of course you're a cat dude. Cats are great. I'm an animal guy. I would have a dog if I had like a girlfriend that I live with or like a wife or something like by myself. No, thank you. That is way too much. But I am an official cat dude. That's cool. Shut up. Shut up, Nadia. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear your opinions of my predilection for cats. I love pussy, dude. You know what I mean? All right. The new policy from Google, also known by its parent company as Alphabet, could affect both average users and well-known figures like FBI Director Dan Bongino. White House counters his okay. Is there anything else? There was something else here. This is Fox News. Fox News stinks. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, yeah, this was it. The document from Google also noted that YouTube values conservative voices on its platform and acknowledged that the creators have extensive reach and play an important role in civic discourse. Really? That's your stance on conservative voices? Look, like I said, I think that has changed. You know what I mean? Like, no, I'm not AJ. I'm not AJ Senshin Dildo. I do not want a dog for a girlfriend. I want someone to help. I want someone to help raise a dog because there are a lot. You've never had a dog? Yeah, I mean, I had a dog growing up. I've never had a dog as an adult. It just seems like too much, man. Like I work, like I can't. You can leave a cat alone for 10, 12 hours. You can't leave a dog alone for 12 hours. Like that's just cruel. So I just wouldn't have a dog unless I was sure there was someone else here that could also interact with the dog or take it out. Like I wouldn't do that. I just wouldn't do that. Anyway. Right. That's what I'm saying, Nadia. Nothing against dogs. All right. Like I said, I think things have changed. I see a lot of based content on YouTube. I watched a video the other day. Pretty interesting. It was just about kind of dispelling like the noble savage myth of the Native Americans. Now, like, is that all that edgy and controversial? No. But is it the type of thing that YouTube would have promoted just a few years ago? Absolutely not. And I'm not subscribed to this guy. It just came up in my feed, you know? And like, I think they have rejiggered the algorithm quite a bit. I imagine you guys have all noticed that, you know? Because it's like in my feed every day, I get, videos recommended with like 60 views of a creator I do not know. It's like, and that's not how it used to be. Like it just, they have rejiggered this whole thing and change it up. So you see, I mean, sometimes almost to the point of frustration. Sometimes I'm just like looking at my homepage. I'm like, I don't know any of these people. I don't want to watch any of these videos. Like, give me someone that I know. Give me something that I like. But for creators, it's good because we have a broader, hopefully a broader cast, a wider net. So I'm trying to say, and maybe that's true. Maybe they really have changed their culture where it's like we're not going to censor what people's political opinions are. We did that. All we got was heat. It's like Twitter has got so much more impact now. Like they brought back Gavin McInnes on Twitter. And when things happen on YouTube now, when YouTube like gets in people's guts with like censoring and stuff like that, like that they hear about it. Those tweets go viral, and so it's like that's a lot of work. So I hope that this is not lip service. I hope it's true. I feel like it's true. I want to see that. I hope that more creators, especially people who lost their channels, can get reinstated. I think that's great. There should, it's YouTube. Like you don't have to see videos from political point of view you don't like. These algorithms are so individually tailored. I just like I never see a Hassan Piker video ever. Destiny never comes up on my feed. The only time these come up was when he was on this guy's podcast called Doom Scroll, or when he was on the Boys Cast. Oof. But when he's on this podcast, Doom Scroll, which I watched a few times, mostly for fodder for videos, not even for my own enjoyment. And so like it's still in my algorithm. But like, but we all know it's not about that. It's not about like whether or not the left can tailor their algorithm to not have to see content they don't like. It's that you shouldn't be allowed to say it. We know that's how it's been for a long time. Central Dildo, my Doge goes with me everywhere. That MFer would eat my furniture if I left him alone. Yeah. I love dogs. Don't get me wrong. I just, I don't know. Maybe I'm just too irresponsible, which is probably the truth. That is probably the truth. Okay. So what's interesting about just get a husband. Shut up. I'm not gay. You're gay. So what's interesting about this whole Google thing, which is, look, I think this is great. The fact that they're taking accountability, I was listening to some people point out, and I was like, that's probably true. Might open them up to lawsuits, might open them up because they're admitting fault. They're saying we did that, our bad, which look, I think that's good. We'll see what the extent of that is. We'll see how many noticing videos there's going to be. Just kidding. But we'll see how far they can take that. Like, I'm sure it's still going to be, a tad sanitized, but look, I mean, they've definitely rolled back some of their restrictions on cursing. Right. You can drop the F-bomb in the first like minute of a video now without it getting instantly demonetized. I wonder if you can use the C word, because I had a video get demonetized, and I pulled a clip from a movie, Snatch, where he refers to himself as a horrible cunt. And then I got that clip from a video on YouTube, and then I put that video clip in my video, and they blocked the video from being seen. I'm like, this came from YouTube. Like, it's crazy. And I think, and sometimes when you kind of like, if you're like, with monetization on the back end, if you're like, this is good, no problems, and you're wrong, they would punish the hell out of you for that. So I hope it changes. Like I said, I feel like YouTube's changed a lot. I feel like their content restrictions have really changed. I used to get demonetized on every single live stream I did without fail, and that just does not happen anymore. And in fact, what's happened like once in a while, and when it does, they generally bring it back. It's only held off like 1 out of every 10, maybe 15 streams. So things are changing, and that's good. You know what I mean? Especially like if you value hearing things that aren't, a controlled narrative, that are just people's opinions or, alternative facts. You know what I mean? Matt's 6 months from being pro-apartheid. Hey, they make some good points down there. They make some good points. Not gonna lie though, the crime and from certain demos is making me want to get a guard dog. Oh yeah, well, you guys can't have Speaking of guns, I've got a 9mm pit bull. Yeah, but Canadians, no. You can probably get a slingshot, like a pretty high power slingshot, maybe some pepper balls, maybe like one of those alarm sounds, whoop, something like that. You use really harsh language. I know that goes against your Canadian sensibilities, but I'm sure there's something. Get a spoon and dull it down, Zach, soon he'll be pro Zoomer waffen. Look, I like that the Zoomers are based as hell. I think, I don't know, they're young. So their ideas are young. You got to kind of let them kind of go on a journey with a lot of these ideas, right? It's like I voted for Obama, in 2008 was the first time? Yeah, I think that was 2008. I campaigned for him, So we all have a political journey to go on, but I'm just glad they're not gay. I thought their whole generation was going to be the gayest generation, but actually not, especially the kind of younger Zoomer waffen, the younger of the Zooms. Because I used to work with some kids in their 20s and they were, oh my God, they were impossible. But I feel like they've become more relevant. Like if you saw the Charlie Kirk memorial ceremony, it was just all like so many dudes in their 20s, so many like just conservative Zoomers. So I think that's a good thing. I think we're moving in the right direction. If you support Israel, I don't know. I feel like that's gonna, you're not gonna like the future. But other than that, I think I think we're doing some good stuff here. I'm happy. Well, they were trying to mitigate it though. We did have that under the direction of government. We did that. Oh. Yeah. I mean, of course, right. Which is to say, unless you work at that company, you can't know how much of it was government pressure and how much of it was, their own personal predilection. I'm sure it was a pretty hefty dose of both. But when the government's telling you to do it, it's a little tougher to tell them to go, kick rocks. It's like, okay, well, now you're in the fucking crosshairs of the FBI and the NSA. And I don't think that's a good place to be. So then they can claim they're just a servant of the state. Yeah, they're like, oh, we were just doing what they were telling us, which I'm sure to a degree is true. You know what I mean? Like, I talk a lot of shit here, but if the FBI came to me and told me to tone it down, might be a little different. Like, no, I'm going down with the ship. It's like, all right, well, now you can't bank. You know what I mean? And it's like, I love you guys, but I do need to live a life. Like I said, luckily, we don't have to worry about that. Things are changing. We can have guns, but I'm not entering that arena as a law clerk. Why not? Is that like a conflict of interest or something? I don't understand. I don't know. I didn't know you guys. I honestly didn't know if you guys could have guns. I know like in Alberta and stuff, like they all have like guns, but I thought Canada was very tough to acquire weapons. Okay, I might get away with a knife in my boot or something if it came to like dying. I don't know. It sounds like in Canada you guys have it tough. It sounds like you guys can't protect yourselves. Okay, so we were talking about the Google thing, and the thing is that I thought pretty interesting that happened was over the past few days. I did a video about this. If you're curious to watch it, about the Jimmy Kimmel situation, my take is that this was not about politics. This was about money. And that, Disney just saw an opportunity to dump this guy off to just cost them hundreds of millions of dollars and doesn't pull in the ratings. I can prove that actually right now, or at least that there's a tremendous boon in his ratings. But all the libs, they're acting like this is the worst thing that's ever happened, that they, the free speech is under attack. Free speech is under attack. The First Amendment, there's fascism, the state, this, that, and the other. And it's just like, well, Google just admitted that they were censoring people online. Did you have a big problem with it when that was going on? No, you were leading the charge to silence people. So don't pretend like your First Amendment, like you give a shit about the First Amendment, okay? You're just throwing that in our face because we care about it. If Jimmy Kimmel was a MAGA guy, you would have like pushed the boat off the dock. You would have been happy. You would have been the first torch on the bonfire. Don't act like this has anything to do with free speech, like some sort of objective principle. You don't hold that principle. You just flat out don't. You do think people should be silenced. We saw Charlie Kirk get murdered, and then I don't know how many times, how many videos I saw of leftists being thrilled. Don't act like you give a shit about. Now, that doesn't mean that's everyone on the left, and that doesn't mean it's all these people either, obviously, but it's enough. And we see how much you guys were into silencing. And like I said, Google just admitted it. Are you going to be like, great, that's awesome, we should have more conservative voices in the conversation? Is that where you're going to go? Is that going to be your take? I doubt it. I doubt it. But these are Jimmy Kimmel's ratings. And I also pointed this out that, you know, back in 2012, he was doing much better than it is now. If you'll see, here we go. Look at this decline. And this is the demo, right? This is the demo, the most important demo, the 18 to 49 is the thing that matters. I mean, look, it's irrelevant. Like, you know, Sargon of Akkad, like his daily channel gets much better numbers on the in the demo, and he doesn't have hundreds of millions of dollars. He doesn't have to rent out some giant studio and hire all these people. You know, I'm sure he gets better impressions on that coveted demo, right? So, yes, Matt, people are full of shit and they only care about their own team. That's not universally true. It's true to a degree, but like, I don't think that's as true on the right. I think, you know, currently with the Jimmy Kimmel thing, a lot of people are in mourning. A lot of people are very upset, and they're kind of like, if that means Jimmy Kimmel is a collateral damage of that and my principles are compromised, whatever. This isn't going to be a thing that the right wing's going to be like, yeah, now we're leading the charge. Now we're getting rid of The View, and now we're getting rid of Rachel Maddow. That's not going to follow. I believe on the right, we do hold a better principle of free speech than the people on the left. There's always going to be retards on every side, in every camp. I mean, I was arguing with the libertarians today. Well, I was more trolling them than arguing with them, but it was just like, there was this kind of semi-viral tweet that was going around saying about how, libertarians, you can't be nationalist and libertarian at the same time. I was like, isn't libertarianism like a strict adherence to the U.S. Constitution? And like, that's it. I thought that was like the point. And they're going back and forth. Oh, right. And like these people, like their conclusions are like, there should be like basically no rules, no borders. They basically just want like hedonistic anarchy. And I was like, okay, you guys are friggin' retarded. But that doesn't mean that libertarians as a group are retarded. This particular group were, but it's like, there's always going to be idiots. But I do think that the right overall, like on aggregate, has a better principled stance. Freedom of speech doesn't mean freedom from consequences. But look, it's just like, I don't think this is a freedom of speech issue at all. I think this was like an excuse. It's the same thing. It's like the way they, you know, like Disney, like, I'm not going to fight to bring Jimmy Kimmel back. I don't give a shit. But it's like, this was them trying to dump off a giant burden, like this tanker ship that they just have to drag around with it, bringing down their profits, because like this is a legacy show and he's got a contract. This isn't about, politics. Like they're like, oh no, we're huge Kirk fans here at Disney. That's not what this was. But Ryan Long had a great little bit about that. So let's play a little Ryan Long, a little bit of levity, a little bit less pontificating, huh, folks?
I had a friend, she came up to me and she was like, isn't it crazy that free speech is gone? I'm like, you supported every guy get kicked off of everything for 10 years. It feels like a friend that was like an alcoholic for 8 years and just a menace, then coming back to the party after one day sober and being like, you guys need to get your life together. And you're like, what? You're like, I'm like, you came to my wedding and shit on the cake. And the only reason you're not an alcoholic anymore is because of the ankle bracelet. Like, what are we talking about?
I thought that was a good take. I thought that was a good analogy. And it was. And it's like, the thing is, right, it's like, you know, and this is being said, and I'm sorry if I'm being redundant in the conversation, but like they don't hold the principle. They're literally just, they know it's your weak spot. It's the same thing with the Epstein files, right? It's like, they know we give a shit about the fact that they didn't release the Epstein files. They don't care. Or some of the, like, they certainly weren't going to pressure their people to do it. They just know we care about it. So they can keep throwing it in our face. Because it's like, all right, you're right. You know, I can't argue with that. It's like, but they weren't petitioning Biden for 4 years to release the Epstein files. They weren't even talking about it. They didn't even care. But now that they know, it's like they found a chink in the armor and they're just going to exploit it. They don't care about free speech. They don't give a shit. There was, I'll put that tweet out there. It was just that guy said it. Like, he's like, the fact that they're all freaking out about Jimmy Kimmel and not about Charlie Kirk getting shot tells you all you need to know. It's like, yeah, that's right. So the celebrities, though, they're not taking this lying down, guys. They are not taking this lying down. They are going to fight. They are going to fight. This just made me laugh. 400 celebrities. Just reading that is hilarious. Really? This is the biggest cause. This is the cause you need to dedicate yourself to. Put your name on. Is that this unfunny tool bag who said a really obnoxious thing? Like I'm saying, I'm not pro censorship, but you losing your fucking your show that no one watches. Oh no. Oh well, boy. Well, the country will never recover. What a precedent. It's like you're not getting debanked, like many people were, like Nick Fuentes was. Can't bank because you don't like what he said. He didn't do anything, but literally can't get it back. Like, before X, no social media, right? You are unpersoned. The only thing they didn't do to you was put you in jail. But everything else that they could, they did. But these celebrities, these free speech warriors, guys, free speech warriors. And also, sorry, did YouTube take down his channel? No. Was he collectively banned all platforms at the same time, like the former president? No. He just doesn't have his dumb show. This isn't a free speech issue. This is a fucking talent issue. This is a investment worth versus return issue. That's it. He stinks. We all know it. That's all this is. Not to mention, late night couldn't be more relevant. They were like, thank God he said this. They were jumping for joy. Like, we just saved ourselves $100 million, boys and girls. Let's pop some champagne. We don't even need to end the contract. We don't even got to get sued. But anyway, 400 celebrities join with the ACLU, these brave folks, to protest Disney Kimmel's suspension, including Tom Hanks, Meryl Streep, and more. Wow, who knew? Isn't that shocking? Did you guys know that Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep were obnoxious libs? Is there any way you could have put that together? No way to know. No way to know. Tom Hanks, Jennifer Aniston, Meryl Streep, Jamie Lee Curtis, Jason Bateman, and Martin Short. Martin Short, come on, man. I guess, you know what? Adam Carolla said this, and who was it else? I think it was Tom Segura. That apparently, if you know Jimmy Kimmel, apparently if you have ever interacted with him, apparently he's a great guy. Apparently he's very nice. Even Carolla said this, and they've been friends for years. But they're, very different politically. Apparently he's a great dude. So maybe these people just all have personal relationships with him or stuff like that. But it's, at least that just needs to be mentioned as part of the story, that maybe Kimmel, if you know him, he's a good dude. But it's just so transparent. It's just so transparent. You're not upset about free speech. You've never given a shit about free speech as long as you've been prominent in politics. It is not a principle of yours. You just want your apparatus intact. You want your, Hillary Clinton, CIA, deep state, liberal, rules-based world order intact. And all of this is a threat to that because it doesn't, much like communism, it only benefits the people at the very top. And this is a threat to that. Look, we get rid of entertainment unions too, and we're really cooking as a country. If you can lower the bar of entry to making movies to a much more reasonable figure, we're doing great. We can really take back this goddamn country. Okay, so members of this Hollywood community who have signed an open letter with the American Civil Liberties Union protesting Disney's decision to pull late night host Jimmy Kimmel's show. It's just like, how you could have helped Jimmy Kimmel's show? You could have watched it. You could have watched it and, retweeted it and put out clips of it. But I don't think any of you did. I don't think you actually give any kind of a shit. Forbidden Ruin, what's up, man? How you doing? Been a minute. What's cracking? I don't think this is anything other than, hey, I hate Trump, and so did Jimmy. So put him back. Even though I will go back to my life of not watching this, along with the rest of the country, not watching this boring loser. Anyway, the letter says that efforts to pressure artists, journalists, and others with retaliation for their speech strike at the heart of what it means to live in a free country. Is that it? Oh, really? You know? So are you gonna help? Are you gonna help Gavin McGinnis get his YouTube channel back then? Or were you freaking out? Like, were any of these people voicing even the most mild bit of displeasure, even internally, when Trump was the president, was deplatformed from everything? Were you upset about that? You don't feel like that was a threat to a free country when the president gets unpersoned? Really? Okay. Well, I'm sure that situation was different. Okay. We now find ourselves in a modern McCarthy era. Oh, really? Are you suggesting that the government is infested with communists? Because that's what McCarthyism was about. Actual USSR funded communists infecting our entertainment unions, our entertainment industry, and the government at large. So are you saying that there are what? Chinese paid communists in our government? Is that what, because that's what the McCarthy era was. So I was just checking. Are you admitting that? Is that what you're saying right now? Or are you just talking about a trope you don't understand and some buzzword you think makes you sound like some kind of radical protester standing up to a fascism, man? All right, brother. Enjoy your stream. Have a fantastic stream. Maybe I will send to you. Can you put it in the chat? Can you put your link in the chat? Oh, Tugs Raid. What up, dog? Hell yeah. Thank you. She's you guys good eggs. Good people over there. I like them a lot. Find themselves in a modern McCarthy era, facing exactly the type of heavy-handed government censorship our constitutional rights forbid. How? And it turned out the government didn't do fucking anything. There wasn't even a phone call made. The FCC guy said one thing on a podcast, exerted zero force over ABC or anything like that. It's like, maybe you could be like, well, the threat was implied. It's like, okay, you could have waited a day. You could have waited a day to see if the FCC would have done anything. You didn't, knee-jerk fire him if you were concerned about it, which they are not. They are not. Apparently, I guess they have affiliates. It's like New Star and Sinclair or something like that. Apparently, they are particularly perturbed by what he said. And even though I think Jimmy Kimmel is coming back tonight, he won't be seen all over the country because there's like local affiliates that like broadcast the ABC shows or whatever. And they're like, nah, this ain't happening. Fuck that guy. Which I'm like, yeah, that's their decision. It's a private company. Remember? It's a private company. I was told that ad infinitum. It's not cancel culture. It's consequence culture. Okay. Not freedom of reach, freedom of speech. Well, how come none of that applies to this guy that no one watches? Why? Hello, psychotic mongoose. Welcome. Hey, you're getting 600,000 Chinese spies. I mean, students. Yeah. There's definitely some things inconsistent with the Trump administration, but I still take it. I still think we're doing better. As it turns out, McCarthy was right all along. I mean, seriously, the most falsely vilified man in history was McCarthy, man. That guy was on the money. And you see it too. It's like, I was thinking about doing a video on this, and maybe I will, because I don't really understand it, but I think I'm right. I think I need to do more research and kind of look into it. But my thinking is that like these Hollywood unions, right? All the unions, the Writers Guild, the Actors Guild, the directors, all that stuff. I think most of that exists to protect and insulate the Hollywood industry, not the actual employees of. I think the whole thing exists to just make sure that no one else, that there's no competition, that only Hollywood can afford to pay these exorbitant prices, to basically crush competition. So it's like there's only these studios in only this city. Like there's no alternative Hollywood, right? I mean, there's like, Japan, there's like other countries with their media, but there's no like, it's not like Pittsburgh just pumps out a movie now and then that's completely unregulated to the studio system. It's like it has to be done with these unions, and the unions. You want to talk about communism? I mean, that is where most of them started. Most of them were either started or infiltrated by like legitimate Soviet communist, either actors or like active agents. Razorfist done a few videos on this subject. I highly recommend you check it out if you're curious. But it's like it's like they called it a witch hunt, and I think it was who was it? Shit, it was this. It was Elia Kazan. I think it was Elia Kazan who said, about the Crucible, which was made as kind of like an allegory for McCarthyism, was saying it's just like, yeah, but the difference is there aren't witches. There are communists. And it's not like they're just Americans with different ideas. They are funded by a foreign power to disrupt and destroy, eat away at this country from the inside. And that's like the big part with the labor unions. So unions ruin whatever they touch. Yeah, I think there's something there. I think I could do a video on that. I bet it would take a while, some research and stuff like that. But I think that would be a good sup Cajun Corey. I think that'd be a good topic to go down. Okay. All right. So there are Hollywood libs spurging. Shocker with, no variation. Like there was some video going around on Twitter recently that was like Bryan Cranston being like, Trump's the worst, blah, blah, blah. What's funny though, because I remember when Trump got elected the first time, Cranston had a statement that was very controversial, which he's just like, I don't like him. I don't agree with him, but I don't want him to fail. He's my president. He's the president of the country. I want him to do well. And now, that's all gone. They are a unified front, dude. I think, there's definitely with a lot of politics and sort of, cultural observations, there's definitely a lot of cope, right? It's just like go woke or get woke, go broke. It's like not necessarily, unfortunately. I think that's more of cope than it is, a true statement. Turns out, a lot of times it's true, but not as like a rule. But I think like they are like, I think like the left-wing establishment and sort of the cultural leftism that like the United States has been sort of, that was the default culture for a while. I think they are genuinely scared. I think they can really see the writing on the wall. It hasn't even been 1 year of Trump, and so many things have changed. Like Google admits that, oh yeah, we were censoring things, there's just people reinstated, like just such a massive shift. Jesus is popular again. I mean, so many things have like completely changed since, in not even a year, in like 9-10 months or however long, not even, like 8-9 months since he's been in president. I think they are freaking out because the culture of the country's different. The world is different. I mean, you look at Britain, right? The raise the flags thing, just showing the St. George flag. That was like, there was all like the government was like, oh no, you can't do that. And then they were like, what? We can't show the flag of the country. They're like, oh yeah, no, you just can't use it as a symbol of hate. Of course I love the flag. I have all these flags, suddenly they're all big British patriots, because it's like, I think the world is changing. The world is dramatically changing. I think the cultural shift is big and strong. Like I said, I might be too excited. I might be too into it. It might be a bit of cope, but I don't know. I just feel like they're freaking out, and I feel like that's why they're pushing so hard with this whole Jimmy Kimmel thing, because they're just like, this is a big piece of their apparatus. It's just like, these big late night guys just saying the thing, hypnotizing their audience into believing all this stuff. Without the droning, like widespread, disinformation, mind control, they're weaker. They don't win in the marketplace of ideas flat out. They just don't. It's like they're got certain points, but they almost everything they think, almost all their policies, eventually they fall apart when you scrutinize them. So they need you to be brainwashed to go along with it because they're wrong. They're just wrong. And I wanted to. Where do I want to go with this? I want this one. No, that's irrelevant. There was something there was just a clip I wanted to play. Do I want to play it? Let me see here. I think I'll play it. I think it's it was on Dave Smith's show last night. And there's been a lot of people who are like scrutinizing the official narrative of the Charlie Kirk shooter. You know, obviously there's like kind of Candace Owens and stuff like that. And there's always like there's a conspiracy theory that like Israel had something to do with it. I don't think so. My first instinct was it was a crazy leftist, and it seems to be that was the case. I don't even understand that conspiracy theory really. I mean, I kind of get some of the points, but I'm just like, I don't know. That just seems like that would be a net loss overall. But anyway, so there's this guy, Max Blumenthal, who wrote an article for, what is he? The Gray Zone, I think is the name of his publication. I wrote a piece, I think, about it. And it was kind of like not implying, that Israel did it, but it wasn't closing it down either. And I think like a kind of like, he's like, he's a pretty piercing journalist, very critical of Israel. And I think, a lot of like, I think he's being like concerned that the narrative is sort of a little wonky. And he said this on Dave's podcast last night, and I didn't care for it.
I would accept that Tyler Robinson could have done this alone, and that he could have been motivated by Charlie Kirk's anti-trans commentary, that this was some kind of trans shooting. Like there could have been a component of mental illness there as well. I can accept that. But does that mean that Tyler Robinson is a leftist? If he was on some of these weird nihilistic Discord channels, which are themselves penetrated or at least surveilled by federal law enforcement, was he a leftist or was he a Democrat or a progressive? If they could show that he was at No Kings rallies holding up signs like calling Trump a pedophile or something, then I'd be like, all right, well, there it is. And like, the No Kings rallies went too far, run with it. But the narrative is already set. The narrative is and this is what the Trump administration has been trying to do all along, is keep the United States in a perpetual state of emergency in order to expand the power of the executive and the surveillance state and Palantir to surveil us, control us, and consolidate the power of his very narrow sectarian movement. And this is the perfect opportunity for them to do it.
Okay, so there's a lot there. Partly, I understand his impulse to be like, until I see evidence, I'm not believing anything. I was like, that I think is a good instinct. And I also think, it's good to be critical of governments always, because it's like, we've in this country have definitely, without our really kind of full knowledge, have given over our rights at times when, we shouldn't have, and we got caught up in something. However, I really take issue with the fact that this guy is trying to suggest that Trump is creating some kind of cultural divide that isn't there, and he's using that like thing that he's created to exploit the American people. That is horseshit. That is absolutely horseshit. That cultural divide exists. Now, people say it was, Trump that created it or whatever. It's like, you can debate that. I don't think that's true. I think it was Obama, but you can debate that. But the debate of whether it exists or not is completely off the table. And just ask, and I have firsthand experience, ask any conservative or even not totally fucking bent left-wing woke communist person who's lived in like a progressive area where you're surrounded by the liberals and left-wing people. They hate you. They hate the way you think. And maybe they wouldn't all celebrate, a Kirk getting killed or whatever, but I don't think many of them are all that heartbroken about it or all that upset. Now, I'm sure there's a portion of the population. I've seen lots of videos and tweets of why I left the left and this, that, and the other. Like I said, you see people like Shoe on Head, like evolve her political point of view and stuff based on that. But the amount of people who like when I became exposed as being a conservative or something like that around people, it's like night and day. Okay. People talk about you behind your back. They want to extricate you from social situations. They talk women out of dating you. There's like all types of social repercussions for daring to think differently. I was at a bar one night in Austin here and was having a conversation with a girl, not even talking to the bartender, just having a conversation with a girl, a very polite, respectful, back and forth political conversation, just talking about it. And where I said that I was a Trump supporter. Well, the next time I went into that fucking bar, like another girl who wasn't even working that night was giving me shit about being a Trump supporter when I was like, what do you even talk? So clear they gossiped, they found out, and then they tattled and ratted on me. Okay. So it's like this notion that Trump is creating that. No, Trump didn't create all those videos of those people celebrating Charlie Kirk's death. Okay. Trump didn't create the complete apathy on the left when, he gets completely deplatformed and, you get, banned from social media or, fired or debanked for having the wrong political opinions. That is 100% not something Trump is manufacturing. Now, you want to argue he's using it to exploit and create some kind of surveillance state. Okay, I'm open-minded to that. But that is completely shirking the blame from the fact that like normal people with just standard basic bitch kind of right-wing ideas are called like Nazis and are excluded from polite society in these enclaves. So that I just took such significant issue with that. I was like, that is bullshit. Horse shit. What do you guys think? It's more the left slammed with their own labeling. They are the ones indexing every person on the planet. I mean, that's true too. I mean, don't you remember them saying like we need a database of people who like didn't take the COVID vaccine or, anything, to BLM, so on, whatever, pick your thing. But they were 100% use the arm of the government to oppress you. Now this is where I will draw the line like fiercely. That does not mean I want to see that happen from the right at all. I do not want to see the government apparatus oppressing people for their ideas. You know what I mean? Like, the Charlie Kirk, the Jimmy Kimmel thing is a bit of a gray zone, but that I don't want to see that happen. But it's just like these people, they pretend like it's like you do not hold these values. They are hateful. I mean, it's like you see them like divorce your family if your dad voted for Trump type shit. You know what I mean? This is not something that Trump manufactured. This exists. This like cultural divide, this very serious, concerning divide exists in our country. It's like, well, Matt, have you tried not being a fascist? Yeah, I was having that exact argument with someone on Twitter. I was like, this is the natural result of like the punch a fascist thing. And the guy goes, or punch a Nazi or whatever. And the guy goes, oh, no, you absolutely should punch a Nazi. And I was like, okay, first of all, no. But secondly, it's like, well, who the fuck defines a Nazi? It's like a Nazi is anyone who's like right wing of, fucking right of Mao. You know what I mean? Like, it's just anyone who's even got the most moderate, like not super hard left wing thing is a fascist, is a Nazi. And it's just like, well, it's like if you're not a fascist, you have nothing to worry about. It's like, you think I'm a fascist because I think there's two fucking genders. Okay. You think I'm right next to Mussolini because I think that, yes, there are men and women and there's no pretending that there's other two. If you want to cosplay as a girl, okay, I'll probably be polite about it, but I'm not going to say you're a woman. You're not. That's ridiculous. And that was the line, by the way, just as a quick little historical reminder. Most people did not give a shit about trans shit. It was when you started doing it to kids and you started making us say you're a woman. Everyone's like, go fuck yourself. All right, this is ridiculous. Low Spec, what's up, Low Spec? Shuan had a great take on the reaction to Charlie Kirk death. Yes, she did. Her video was fantastic. There was a lot of, there's a lot of great videos in response. I like Sam Hyde's. There's a lot of really strong commentary. I mean, the right has handled it fantastically. We were all very sad. I was very sad, extremely sad. No retaliatory violence, no shootings, no rioting, nothing. You know, say whatever the fuck with that little manufactured narrative about right-wing violence being the biggest thing and the blah, blah, blah. I don't see it. They're, you know, people prayed. They went to church. They're better people. The left are facing the system created on top of our type of consequences. Wait, the left are facing the system they created on top of our type of consequences. Yes, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it was literally like, you know, it's like, do you know what the brass bull is? Have you guys ever heard of that torture device? So, in like, I forgot when, some time ago in history, this guy invents this brass bull, and the concept is it's this giant brass bull. And there's a chamber inside that you can put like a victim. You lock them in there, and then you light a fire underneath them, and you literally bake them alive. And there's like this sort of, you know, like tubes that go out that your screams then sound like the roar of a bull. Well, when this guy who invented that presented it to the emperor, he's like, okay, yeah, let's try it out. And threw the guy who invented it into the torture chamber. I think he lived, but I mean, you know, that's the most agonizing thing I can imagine. And that's essentially what the left-wing people have done here. They've created a system and a device that, you know, destroys their political opponents. And then when the first time it's even mildly pointed at them, they melt down. Can't not believe that their Second Amendment rights are being stripped, our First Amendment rights are being stripped. And it's like, they're not. One douchebag got fired. You can all spout off and say the dumbest, gayest shit you want. No one's stopping you. Start a YouTube channel, compete in the marketplace of ideas, see how you do. You know? It's like the second the crosshairs even point in their general direction, melting down. It's like, you created the weapon, man. You know, it's like you're like what's his name? Like, oh God. Oh fuck, that analogy fell apart. Never mind. But it literally is. It's like the guy with the brass bull. It's like, oh, well, maybe you shouldn't have created a device that would torture people, and you wouldn't be getting tortured right now. Listless. I'm not sharing political opinions in public anymore, period. They can fucking guess. It's not even safe. One can now argue. Well, I mean, that's true. One of the points that political Shu made in her video was just about, yeah, someone got shot for political violence. You're never having our guns ever. You know, it's just like, yeah, fucking fantastic point. But that's the thing, right? It's like, well, you didn't say the thing. It's like all that compelled speech stuff, like the black square, like the BLM black square in your Instagram profiles. Like, well, you didn't post it, so we know what you think, right? It's like even your silence. It's like if you're not capitulating with their stuff, you know, I don't know. I just I mean, I don't think at any point anyone should be forcing politics down anyone's throat. I find it just as obnoxious when conservatives do it, even if I agree. In fact, more so because I think it makes us look like douchebags. But I'm not shying away from it ever again. Like I'll never back off that. I'm never going to pretend to be someone I'm not, you know, for people. I'll be professional, I'll be polite, but I'm never shying away from that ever again. You know, Charlie Kirk was the line. It's like, I don't care. I don't give a shit. This is who I am. This is what I think. Not to worry. Palantir already has that database. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of question marks with that company. Big time. Don't punch people in general unless you're Destiny. Just kidding. Just kidding. Not a threat. Just a joke, YouTube. Because you'll end up with an assault charge. Yeah, sure. What government doesn't take an advantage of a tragedy? Sure. What's up, Jambalama? How you doing, brother? What's up? Bunch of Matsy. Mike's sign off last week. It was pretty funny. He's like, I do think they should shoot you. No, dude, there's no Nazis left. I checked. They're all gone. They're all done. We got rid of it. Yeah. All right. So I just wanted to just talk about that. I just wanted to address that. That annoyed me last night when I was listening to that episode because everything else was pretty based and pretty cool. And I was just like, shut up, dude. Don't try to make it like Trump's like over exaggerating the like left wing hysteria to create a cultural divide. This isn't 2004 where we're talking about Islamophobia. Okay. Like that's real. It's very real that there's this big issue. Okay. So this is something that Sentient Dildo was talking about earlier. So, H1 they are a big deal, hot topic of conversation. And it came out that like, okay, so back, if you remember about a year ago, now I know a lot's happened in a year, but there was a big controversy in this country with Vivek Ramaswamy who is, gone. He was in the inner circle of the Trump administration, and now I think he's running for like governor of Ohio. He is unrelated to the Trump administration, totally gone. And Elon were pushing for those H-1Bs, and they were like, it's the hill that I'm going to die on. It's the most important thing in the world. Boy, they read the room wrong, eh? I mean, the country snapped back on them aggressively. They did not, and I do not think they saw that coming. I didn't even really know anything about that, honestly. And I've never worked in tech, even adjacent. So I don't know anything about this stuff, but that guy, Right Wing Collective, put out a video today talking about that very thing. And in the Indians that he worked with, and he doesn't have anything nice to say about them. And so, you heard a lot of stuff, nepotism and, kind of incompetence and false credentials and all types of shit. So the H-1B visa was a big conversation. It was a big talking point. And then the government, Trump, and it's unclear because I keep hearing contradicting things where it said something where it was just like, well, if you want to put someone on an H-1B visa, you have to, it's like $100,000 a year now on top. Like you have to pay the government if you're going to bring in someone from another country. So it's like that person better be valuable. Now, I don't know. Someone tweeted and then I thought it was like, no, it's just once a year or it's like an application fee. I don't know how this is all going to shake out. So forgive me, but there was a I guess the news got out. And there were a bunch of people on a flight bound for what was it? So at San Francisco. So there was a bunch of people, I guess at a flight I think from India. Well, anyway, this is what happened. Yeah, my understanding is that this was a flight from India, and the news broke about the Trump situation.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the captain speaking. Due to the current circumstances, obviously, that are unprecedented for us here at Emirates, we are aware that a number of passengers do not wish to travel with us, and that's perfectly fine. All we ask is that if you wish to offload yourself, you do so. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the captain speaking.
So basically, there are a lot of people who are on H-1Bs who got the news and were like, oh shit, well, I'm not going to go then. I'm not going to go if I can't get a gig. And when you see this, right, it's a plane full of people. Now, I'm sure not every single person was going to fly to get a gig, but it's a lot of people. That's just one plane. And it was so dramatic and jarring that that this many people are standing up trying to get off the plane. And it's like, what are we doing? Like, is there really some kind of labor shortage in this country for all these gigs? It's like, I don't think so. I do think we have some kind of system in this country that's being like widely exploited by, all these American companies. We're so proud of this American industry, so on and so forth. And yet, it's like, you're not hiring Americans. You're flying, you're importing immigrant labor. Is it that effective to a negative to profits to just pay Americans, a decent wage? Is it that hard? It's like, I am all for free market economics and like labor having a value. And I think that that's real. And I think we should be teaching people, kids especially, about that labor has a value. There's no such thing as a living wage. You're not owed anything. It's what a company is willing to pay you for your services. If that labor does not have that much of a market value, meaning if you can be replaced, that stinks, but that's just what it is. It's like they have their costs, they have their goals. If they go out of business, there is no job. It doesn't exist. So it's like there's no obligation from the state or from anyone to like give you a living, earn skills that people will pay for. I am completely acceptable with that. That's honestly, I wish I learned that when I was a kid. I wish I got that instead of all the commie rhetoric that they give you. But this is fucking not that. Like, we have standards in this country. Like, we have like living standards and cost of living, like prices that the rest of the world doesn't necessarily have, and it's like, we shouldn't be penalized because we live in a country that's prosperous and, the cost of living is high and you just like import people so that you can keep your profits low. It's just like, or your profits high and your costs low. It's just like, what the fuck? Like, that's just so un-American. You know, it's like I said, like the free market economics is completely one thing. This is not that, dude. You're just like, wow, we could get cheap labor and pay them less because they have lower standards and don't have families, in America to care for. They can just send their remittances home and, they'll all live like kings because it's like the money goes so much further there. It's like, what the hell are we doing? What are we doing? It's all scams, indeed. It's a nothing burger. They're also expediting green cards for Indians. So they're still replacing you, but they're just charging $100K to fill the government coffers. Yeah, I mean, look, but it's like I said, if the government's willing to, or that company's willing to pay that extra $100,000, it's like, well, then there must be a reason, right? Because it's like, if you're not going to have to pay that, then you're probably not gonna, because the whole thing is a financial issue. The whole thing is a transactional issue, right? It's like, well, that we don't want to pay people this salary that they're worth, that job should be paid in the United States. So we'll hire this guy who won't charge as much. And well, now it's like it's going to charge more. So that guy better be worth it. Suppressing wages affects a lot of people, though. It's a huge problem. No, I agree. I don't know all that much about economics. I'm not going to pretend to do, but I do think the market should straighten that out, so long as you're not importing the third world to replace, the Americans or Canadians, right? It's like, as long as like the market is being regulated fairly, and the fact that you're not just like exploiting people, it's like they should sort of level out to what their value is. But once again, I don't really know what the hell I'm talking about. You know what I mean? I'm a friggin' idiot. Did that guy Shield Dragon guy, what's his name? Did he drop his link? Did he drop his link in the chat there? Doesn't look like he did. It does not look like he did. Oh well. That's okay. Not that big of a deal. We are wrapping up this show, folks, ladies and germs. I hope you guys had a good time here on the MF podcast. Like I said, go to Foul Ball Film and Television. Watch the my Alien Earth review if you haven't seen it. And keep your eyes peeled for a video on Sinners, which is coming down the pike. But I hope you guys I hope you guys like the stuff that I do. You know what I mean? Because it's like, even though I know, my content might not be the best, and I'll be the first to admit it, it isn't easy to make. You know what I mean? It's very time consuming. And if it stinks, guys, I would actually hope that y'all would be the ones that tell me. You guys are the people that spend the most time in my live streams and stuff like that. So if I do something stupid, if I make a bad video, or it's a waste of time or whatever, it's like, I would like to hear that from you guys. And please, by all means, with grace, with love, you know what I mean? Here we go. Okay. So I've got, all right, I've got to send you guys over to the dualies, but yeah, no, it's like, I think the videos are, whatever. Anyway, thank you guys very much for hanging out with me on this MFR podcast. I'll see you guys all next week, and yeah, have a good one. Later, Matsy and Chatwaffen. All right, you guys have a great night. Peace out.